standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central, for more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. Fidelity Bank, for all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you. And Roper's Janitorial, complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you.
For the record.
Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record.
Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. Today is Friday, the 10th day of January 2020. I trust that everyone had a restful evening. Those of you who are on the roads of the Cayman Islands this morning, whether you're a pedestrian, whether you're a cyclist, operating any type of motorized vehicle on the roads of the Cayman Islands, we again urge you to please be extremely cautious. Please ensure that you observe the rules of the road. Remember, the life you save may just be your own. With over 300 vehicular accidents on the roads of the Cayman Islands in a short period of time, I think it averaged out, the month of December, I think it was, averaging out something like about 10 motor vehicle accidents per day. That is excessive. That is crazy. That is unheard of on an island of only 22 miles long and 7 miles wide at its widest point. 7 miles wide at its widest point. That means all of the other areas are much, in terms of width, are much narrower than that as well. Those figures, those are crazy statistics. So please be careful on the roads of the Cayman Islands. Those of you who are celebrating a birthday today, I want to wish you a happy birthday. If you've celebrated one over the past few days, belated happy birthday, or if you're going to be celebrating one over the weekend, we want to wish you a happy one when it comes as well. And we again urge you, whatever you do in terms of celebration, please do it in moderation as well. Those of you who have lost loved ones over the past few days, past few weeks, we want to extend our sincere condolences to you, and we hope and we trust that your faith will help to carry you through these very challenging times as well. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. As you know, For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orrett Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. During those periods, our phone lines are always open. There is always that beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson there to take your calls. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flo. That toll-free number, 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. And if you don't like to talk on the telephone, then email us at For The Record, one word, For The Record, at candw.ky. WhatsApp us on 925-3261, where you can send us a text message or leave us a voice note, the contents of which will be played during the course of the show. And of course, you can follow us on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. We will have in the studio with us shortly MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan, who, as you know, represents the constituency of Georgetown Central in our Legislative Assembly. He will be with us and discussing several issues. Meanwhile, I will mention some of the issues that you may be interested in discussing as well if you choose to call in on the show. Hearing some anecdotal evidence or of issues that people are having, potential work permit holders are having with the language test that is being administered. And no one questions the need for a language test. And if I get an opportunity, I will sort of give you the history of the language test requirements in order to get a work permit for those persons coming from jurisdictions where English is not the first language. This isn't something that was recently put in place. It was put in place a long time ago. Unfortunately, in the 80s and even in the 90s to a certain extent, government had a way of making decisions in terms of what they wanted to do, but not necessarily thinking about the broad implications and thinking about the implementation process as well. So when it came to the language test, and that requirement was put in the immigration law and the regulations, we then had to quickly make a makeshift arrangement for the administration of the language test. And initially, it was a verbal test that was given, oral test. And it was, if you're familiar with the immigration department, I haven't been in there recently, but when you enter the immigration, the foyer area, the public counter area, you have the alleyway to the right where you go to the bathrooms, and then there was an assistant chief immigration officer's office behind the counter on the right-hand side. Normally, the test was conducted there. In many instances, not only the person who was being tested, but sometimes their prospective employer or their employer for whom a work permit had been issued was normally there with them as well. Basically at that time, you were basically required to have the terminology that was used was have a working knowledge of the English language. So there wasn't a whole lot of subjectivity to the test at that point in time, and it worked well to a certain extent. Now we are where we are today, where we understand that a test is being administered by a third party. Fees are paid for that. I'm not sure whether or not those fees are paid to the third party or whether or not they're paid to the government and that party gets a proportion of administering it. I'm hearing stories of persons taking the test, one person taking the test 4 times before they passed it. by the fourth time, the work permit then had already been withdrawn by the department, and the employer then had to resubmit or a request for the work permit. My understanding is that there are many people, who are failing the test, and as a result of that, they're having to leave the jurisdiction. I'm not expressing any viewpoint one way or the other, any sympathy in relation to that, but that must be extreme hardship for prospective employers as well, which means that employers need to put something in place where they ensure that the persons that they're applying for work permits for can speak English and would have the ability to pass any test that is given before they even submit an application for a work permit for them, because it is quite obvious now that the language requirement is going to be strictly enforced, and there is no reason why it should not be strictly enforced. What needs to happen, though, is that people need to know what the expectations are. Guidelines need to be put in place. If you fail the test, how many opportunities are you given to pass the test? Are you required to remain in the jurisdiction while that is being done? My other question would be whether or not I made to understand that there's a written part of the test, the English test, and then there is also an oral part of the test where you listen and then you have to answer questions. And my point is that there are some persons who come to work in the Cayman Islands who do not necessarily have the educational standard to sit a written test, and whether or not that is taken into consideration as well. Because if it isn't, then that could be some form of discrimination against people who are educationally challenged, as well. So my question would be whether or not there are any options in that regard as to how if they're unable to write, because there are jobs in the Cayman Islands where you're not required to have written skills or writing skills, that you're not required to have those skills, and whether or not arrangements are in place for those persons who are challenged when it comes to their ability to read and write as well. One more point that I would like to raise, as someone may ask the question, why don't we have the test administered overseas before the individuals come to the islands? This way it would save lots of money on airfare and other things. When I was in the immigration department, that was one of the things that we felt was possible, and we also felt that as an overseas territory, and with the overseas territories being represented in other countries by our British consulates or British embassies, that this was a function that could be performed by them. Of course, they wanted to know what the standards were as well. But the main issue with the British embassies and British consulates were, are we going to get paid for it? What are we going to get out of it? We're doing it for you. But yet we were a British overseas territory. And at the end of the day, they basically declined to administer that language test on our behalf. So as a result of that, the language test had to be then administered here in the Cayman Islands. We want to talk a little bit more about this. If you are out there and you have had an issue with this language test, whether you're an applicant or if you're an employer, please give us a call. Let us hear from you as well. Meanwhile, we need to take a commercial break. So, folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs. The Cayman Islands, he hath founded it upon the seas.
After much hard work and planning, the first agriculture show was held on Ash Wednesday, 1967, on the school grounds behind the Georgetown Public Library. When school finished on the Tuesday, work crews worked through the afternoon and night to set up the grounds for the 9 a.m. start to the show. The first agriculture show was a tremendous success and would become an annual event, growing so large that after several years, the show was moved to a new larger location on the grounds on Walker's Road. Success would continue, and as the show grew, it was moved to the cricket grounds near the Smith Road Oval. However, the Civil Aviation Department was not in favor of the location, and property was subsequently purchased in Lower Valley in the early 70s, and the show found its current home once construction of the Stacy Waller Pavilion was completed.
Information from this historical vignette was sourced courtesy of Mr. Charles Lindbergh Eden, The History of Agriculture, 50th Annual Agriculture Show magazine.
Radio Cayman's historical facts vignettes are proudly brought to you by Cayman National, with branches on all 3 Cayman Islands. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
I remember playing at 7 Mile Beach as a boy, eating mango by the sea, learning how to snorkel. My mother, she worked so hard to provide for our family so that we could have those moments. Seeing her age has been tough. A strong, capable woman, now in need of daily support, it's my time to be strong for her.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of the careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
2020 means perfect vision, and if you have your sights set on driving a new hybrid, then the time is now to check out the new RAV4 and CHR. Just 2 of the many hybrid models that Vant is bringing to Cayman. Whether you're looking for a smoother and quieter way of driving or want a car that maximizes fuel efficiency while minimizing emissions, there are lots of ways a new hybrid from Vant can make the difference in your life. Hybrids save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries without being plugged in. So focus your 2020 vision on a new hybrid from Vant Motors, and we will see you through. Come to Vant, home of the hybrid, located on Walker's Road.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. No guest in the studio yet, but we will be joined with MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan. My understanding is also that traffic is heavy traveling into Georgetown from the eastern districts as well. And as you know, there was a saying in the about the Roman Empire and the country of Italy that all roads led to Rome. Well, in the Cayman Islands, all roads lead to Georgetown. So you can expect congestion because all roads are heading to Georgetown. So at some point in time, they're going to all converge. And when they converge, that is when chaos begins. That's when you get backed up traffic. That's when you get gridlock as well. Oh, there's an article in the Caymanian Compass, and I want to, fisherman breaks rod to save his finger, and that's about Mr. Arthur Lee Evans, a renowned fisherman, and scuba operator in the Cayman Islands. I would refer to Arthur Lee Evans as the Captain Erdis of our times. As we know, Captain Erdis Ebanks from West Bay, a renowned fisherman, taxi driver, taxidermist, all sorts of things. And Mr. Arthur Lee Evans, one of the more modern Caymanians to be involved in the scuba industry, now residing in Cayman Brac, fishing over there, and almost lost part of his finger in an accident. So we want to wish him a speedy recovery from that as well. Very nice article written in the Compass by Miss Jewel Levy, and I want to give kudos to Miss Jewel Levy as well. Just like the late Miss Carol Winker was renowned for her reporting in the courts, but not only in the courts. She spent a lot of time in the elections office when Mr. Kerner Gomez was the supervisor of elections. He spent a lot of time in there, wrote lots of articles about elections in the Cayman Islands. I'm not sure who will take up that responsibility now that she has passed on. But likewise, Miss Jewel Levy does such a great job, and I hope that the Compass keeps her on because she brings so much local flair to the reporting. She reports on so many local issues that are taking place, whether or not they're controversial issues or whether they're nice stories to tell about our culture and way of life in the Cayman Islands as well. So again, speedy recovery to Mr. Arthur Lee Evans, and I'll give a big shout out to his brother Patrick Evans, Peter Pat, who's over in the Brac as well, and we sometimes hear from Patrick on For the Record, who will normally call in as well and talk to us about things. Another article in the newspapers in the headlines has to do with the group seeking judicial review over beach access. And it seemed we heard from Mr. Billy Adam calling on people to come out and support them and show their support. And obviously, based on the photographs in the newspaper, some people did support them yesterday as well. And I'm not sure whether or not he had an opportunity to read it, but I did send him a copy of an article. Just happened to be scrolling through the newspapers, and in yesterday's Daily Gleaner, Jamaica Gleaner, there was an article entitled "California Officials Sue Billionaire Over Access to Beach." And on this talk show, I have in the past spoken to you about challenges that other jurisdictions are having in the Caribbean, Turks and Caicos, Barbados, and others when it comes to beach access and the ownership of property by sometimes non-nationals as well. And I will share this article with you. It starts by saying that California officials are suing a billionaire who has been fighting for more than a decade, 10 years, not as long as, or just as long as our people have been fighting here to keep a secluded beach to himself, a move designed to ensure the public always has access to the scenic stretch of property. The lawsuit filed Monday on behalf of the California State Lands Commission and Coastal Commission seeks a court order demanding that Vinod Kosia remove all gates and signs on or near the only road to the beach that runs through his private property. The lawsuit contends that without court orders, Kosia will keep imposing improper restrictions to public access to Martins Beach near the Moon Bay, about 35 miles south of San Francisco. This case goes to the heart of California's public access mandate. Those quotes are attributed to the chairman of the Coastal Commission in California. He's also quoted as saying, "We cannot allow this to be chipped away. Each time someone purchases beachfront property, it's a dangerous predicament for the future of public access in California. The dispute is one of several in California over who is allowed to use the coastline, which is often accessed through neighborhoods and private property. The state constitution guarantees public access to all beaches below the high water line." I will read that part again for you. The state constitution guarantees public access to all beach below the high tide line. Now we have whatever we have in terms of our beaches, we have it in our local legislation. Whether or not we can carve out something and we can find something in our constitution that covers beach access, that speaks to our preserving our tradition. If not, then maybe, I shouldn't say maybe, if not, then we should. We're talking about constitutional amendments. Those constitutional amendments should not always be for the benefit of the politicians, but they should also be for the benefit of the people of the Cayman Islands. And my question is, why not include the right to access to the public beach in our Constitution? This way we make sure that our Constitution will override any legislation, which means that any legislation that is in place will then have to be amended to ensure that it is in compliance with our Constitution as well. With that, before we go to our 8 o'clock news, I want to say good morning and welcome to For the Record to MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan. And you heard me with my rant. I don't know if you want to join in it or not.
Oh, we are definitely going to be joining in on that rant. But since we have such short amount of time, I just want to say good morning and say Happy New Year for the first time to your Radio Cayman listeners. There's a lot to talk about, and I'm going to be adding a lot to what you've said so far. But we can definitely do that after the break. It's a pleasure to be back on. I apologize on behalf of some of my colleagues who are doing some very important meetings this morning, so they're all justified not to be here. But we have a lot to talk about, and also give you a bit of a future picture of the next sitting of the House, which is on January the 30th, the end of this month. So we'll talk all about those things and some other things that the callers want to speak about. So we want to definitely hear from the people as well.
Excellent, excellent. Folks, top of the hour, 8 o'clock news. Please stay tuned For the Record with MLA. Mr. Kenneth Bryan will be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. And studio time now by Foster's is 7:59.
The festive season was festive, so it's time to give your body the love and attention it deserves. At Foster's Cabana Bay, you'll find the largest selection of organic, fresh produce, vitamins, supplements, nutritional powders, and more for any diet and lifestyle. Stop by the Bay Market Cafe for fresh juices and smoothies, a healthy, made-to-order meal from one of the service counters, or kombucha on tap from Saucha. Foster's Cabana Bay and Bay Market Cafe. Better because we care.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. 3 people are taken to the hospital after a head-on collision Thursday morning on the Linford-Pearson Highway. When the 2 vehicles collided, police say one of them was driving in the wrong direction. While all 3 people involved went to their hospital, their injuries are reportedly non-life-threatening. Police continue to investigate. The Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure announced the recent appointment of Darby Whitaker and Leah Watson to new positions within the ministry. Radio Cayman's April Cummings has the details.
Darby Whitaker will now serve as the Deputy Director for Service Delivery in the Computer Services Department, with responsibility for all aspects of information systems user experience across the Cayman Islands government. He will provide strategic management and administrative support to the Director of Computer Services Department, with oversight for service management and integration of data center and network services, database management, desktop support services, and service desk management. Mr. Whitaker holds a Master of Science degree in Information System Management from the University of Liverpool and a Bachelor of Business Administration from Howard University. He is also a graduate of the International College of the Cayman Islands, where he completed an associate degree in Business Administration. Ms. Leah Watson assumes the position of Policy Assistant within the ministry. In her new role, she will assist with the delivery of commissioned projects, undertake research activities, and support the administration of projects and policy development. Ms. Watson, who previously served as Executive Officer, is a graduate of John Gray High School and currently pursuing an associate degree in Public Administration at the Cayman Islands Civil Service College. April Cummings, Radio Cayman News.
And Cayman's youth parliamentarians get the boost they need as they gear up for this year's Youth Parliament with a recent donation from local law firm Harney's. Making the third year of its sponsorship, the donation of more than $8,000 will help to cover a number of expenses in the program, such as pad folios, bags, gift certificates, and award plaques. Clerk of the Cayman Islands Legislative Assembly, Zena Marin-Chin, tells Radio Cayman News she's grateful for the donation.
The program this year is a little bit different. The Assistant Clerk, Davina, has actually devised a bit of a different program this year. We actually have involvement from the Toastmasters, helping the participants in their debate and research and presentation and that sort of thing. So the program is a little bit different.
The debate is taking place on Monday, March 13th. Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Karsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with Rosemary Main. Iran has said it wants to download the black box recordings of the Ukrainian airliner that crashed on Wednesday itself. The head of Iran's Civil Aviation Authority said it could take up to 2 months to extract information from the flight recorders. He rejected suggestions from the US, Canada and others that the plane was shot down by an Iranian missile. Iraq's most powerful Shia Muslim cleric has said that no foreign powers should be allowed to decide his country's fate. Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani condemned both Iranian and US attacks in Iraq as a violation of Iraqi sovereignty. Tens of thousands of people have attended climate change rallies in Australia that have strongly criticised the government's handling of the bushfire crisis. The protesters called for all firefighters to be paid for their work and for a transition away from fossil fuels. United Nations investigators say conflict between the Lendu and Hema communities in the Democratic Republic of Congo has killed at least 700 people and caused massive displacement. A UN report says the nature of the violence in Ituri province could constitute crimes against humanity. India's Supreme Court has asked the government to review the suspension of internet services in Indian-administered Kashmir within 7 days. The measure was introduced just before the region's special status was revoked in August. The US aircraft manufacturer Boeing has released hundreds of internal messages of staff critical of the 737 MAX airliner, which was grounded last year after 2 deadly crashes. One employee said the plane was designed by clowns. Sweden has registered a drop in the number of air passengers for the first year since the global financial crash a decade ago. The number of people flying fell 4% in 2019. It's been attributed to several factors, including a weaker currency, increases in aviation tax and environmental concerns. BBC News.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
From happy beginnings to happy ever after.
BritK protects your lifestyle with the best insurance cover at the best possible price.
Health insurance with far-reaching benefits.
95% of claims settled in 5 days.
Low-cost life insurance.
And investments.
Security in retirement.
With a custodian pension plan.
For happy beginnings and a happy ever after.
Visit BritK.ky or call 949-8699.
BritK, where people come first.
The Weather Report is proudly sponsored by Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center, your one-stop household store at 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best prices in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it. Drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Top of the morning to you. Let's take a look at the latest weather report. Current temperature is 81 degrees. Relative humidity is 85%. Barometric pressure is 30.03 inches and rising. The wind is east at 10 knots. Overnight low temperature was 78. Synopsis indicate strong easterly winds and rough seas will continue for the next 24 hours as a high pressure system moves over the western Atlantic Ocean, with a tight pressure gradient across the northwest Caribbean. Radar images show isolated showers around the Cayman area moving towards the west. And the forecast for today and tonight calling for partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers. And temperatures will be in the low 80s today and will fall to the mid-70s tonight. Your winds will be easterly at 20 to 25 knots, going to be a cool one. Seas will be rough with wave heights of 6 to 8 feet. Small craft warning remains in effect. Today's high tide will occur this morning at 9:54, low tide this afternoon at 4, and a high tide again tonight at a minute after 9. Sunset 6:03, sunrise 2 minutes after 7, and the outlook is calling for fresh easterly winds and rough seas from Saturday evening as the high pressure system moves further east over the Atlantic Ocean. That's the very latest on your weather report.
Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center was the proud sponsor of the Weather Report, your one-stop shop for all of your household items, craft items, jewelry, beads, and decorations, and much more. Call Super Stitch at 949-2833 or email customer care at superstitch.com.ky. New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it. Drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
And once again, we take a look what's happening on our roads. Busy traffic on the Linford Pearson Highway. Slight delays expected as you head on down to Georgetown. Steady traffic on Cool Road, and traffic is also steady coming off of Bobby Thompson Way. Looking towards the West Bay area. Coming from the West Bay four-way stop, moderate flow of traffic. And traffic is also moderate on the West Bay Road in front of the Ritz. And looking towards Eastern Avenue and Godfrey Nixon Way, traffic flowing pretty good. And light traffic on Shedden Road and Edward Street, moderate flow of traffic. And no issues on Owen Roberts Drive as traffic is light to moderate. That's your latest on your traffic. Join us again at about 10 minutes after 12. We'll give you another look at traffic.
Do you ever have those days when you have to get a super early start? Or you're out late and want something fresh and healthy to eat? Subway has now opened their 4th 24-hour location for you early birds and night owls. Subway at West Shore Center on 7 Mile is now open 24 hours. So now you can grab any of Subway's fresh menu items any time of the day at 4 convenient locations. West Shore Center 7 Mile, Countryside in Savannah, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers West Bay. Subway. Eat fresh.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the Record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. My pleasure to have in the studio with me none other than MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan, who, as you know, represents the constituency of Georgetown Central in our Legislative Assembly, soon to be called Parliament. Mr. Bryan.
Yes, good morning again, OC, and good morning to the listening audience via social media, YouTube, and via our natural process of the radio. It's a pleasure to be here on Radio Cayman once again. Today I hope to discuss some of the things you've already brought up, particularly with that of what's in the news today, of a group of Caymanians who are seeking to challenge the government by way of judicial review. But I find it interesting to start off from the point of we have the compass in today's date being that of the 10th of January, and then having in another newspaper on the 7th of January, which just 3 days later, it's kind of crazy if you can see from a view standpoint, two headlines which subsequently is challenges to this government. And challenges to the government. That's significant in the magnitude of it. You know, you don't get challenges to a government very often, but now we have literally two challenges to the same administration of legal action based on decisions they have made. It's starting to set the stage as to the realities of how people feel about the government's behavior. Whenever a group of citizens decide to say a government's decision isn't good enough, they will take it to the highest courts of the land. That says a lot. It's concerning, though, because we shouldn't be getting into not that we shouldn't, but it's saddening when we have to feel that we have to challenge the government through judicial review on decisions. But I think both challenges that we've heard, first being that of the group of citizens who's challenged the government on the way of the referendum process, and then the second group that we see in the paper today who's challenging the government on beach accessibility in a previous government deal with a local investor. They're both very important matters, and in my view, one of the key concerns that I had, because I was down there yesterday as well at the courts, I didn't get into the picture because I didn't think it would be appropriate. I have to make sure there's a balance, distance away from the cause, because I'm a legislator, and when it's necessary for me to have a balanced input and debate to these types of matters, I don't want to be seen as biased either on one side or the other, because that's my obligation. But when I was there yesterday, one of the concerns that came up to me was the fact of a lack of access to the judicial process, because the hearings were heard in chambers. By all means, I know obviously the judge involved in this matter has the right and the discretion to have these hearings in chambers or in public open court. I think that there needs to be a change of policy or practice within the judicial system of matters of this nature should never, in my opinion, be done behind closed doors. Because justice not only should be served, but to be seen to be served. Because if justice in the people's mind is not served, let's say, for instance, this case goes forward and the people lose, but all of the hearings and process and challenges and reflections on laws and decisions by the judge are done behind closed doors, nobody sees and understands the rationale behind the decision. And it leaves this uneasy feel in the people's minds. It says something happened and I don't know what happened and I lost and I don't feel comfortable, as opposed to the people being there to see the reasoning, the logic, the argument, the pros and the cons, and say, okay, you know what? Okay, maybe the government was right on this. And then the uneasiness will subside and the people will move on forward through history and through the future.
Now, was a request made for it to be held not in camera?
As far as I am aware, and I understand.
And was a reason given as to why they chose not to?
I can't say with positivity whether there was a request for it to be done in open court. But that's a moot point for me from the perspective of whether a request was made or not. I think the judicial process and those who were making the decision should understand the magnitude to say, regardless of whether the request is made, and I'm going to do it because I think these types of cases are important to be done in open court. Now, I must add the fact that in normal hearings like this, which is preliminary hearings before a judicial review is actually granted, this is a hearing just to see whether or not there's a judicial review necessary. So we're not there yet, but they're seeking judicial review. But even in the process of seeking it, that too has to be seen as fair. Because, say, for instance, in this case, through this process where the government and those petitioners and their lawyers are not granted that judicial review process, even that can be seen as, well, hold on, how did it happen? I didn't see what the judge said and didn't say, and I didn't hear what the case was and wasn't. Even that has to be done in open court because of the magnitude of what it means. You were talking earlier about potential processes like this of access to public beach should be
enshrined in the Constitution.
Should be enshrined in the Constitution. So when you talk about things of that magnitude, where you can say, well, it's almost constitutional, or it feels like it should be protected by Constitution, that shows you the magnitude of it, and that's why I believe these types of things should be done in open air. Now, by all means, I'm not saying that a judge involved did anything wrong. They have all the power necessary to decide whether it should be done in open court or open hearing or not. I just think that we should understand the magnitude, the lay of the land of the people today. They want information. They want to see the process. We have to be more open to things being done. For too long, things continue to happen behind closed doors in this country. And we're not only talking about cases through the judiciary, but decisions, whether they be on the boards, whether it be within cabinet. We're in an age of today where the people don't feel enough trust in those who have the power to say, listen, you have the power, but that doesn't mean I'm just going to blindly listen and trust what your decision is. I want to see how you've done it. I want to see the reports. I want to see the reasons why you've done it. And people have the right to do that. That's the constitutional right. And the more that the mechanisms that are available to hide these things, because like I said, in this case, there's a discretion by those in charge whether this should be open court or not. The more those people in power use the discretion to keep it in closed hearings, regardless of what it is, the more the people feel uncomfortable. So that's something I think we should keep in mind for those who make these types of decisions, because the public will continue to ask for access. Now, we haven't gotten into the discussion about whether there is a case here, because it's going to be before court, so I'm going to be reluctant to get into that.
Okay.
I think that's important that I stay back from that. But a challenge to public access is something that needs to be before the court, and it needs to be something that governments and the people have to have a higher power make that decisions and why that decision had to be made, so the public can have ease that our trusted judicial system has given eyes to this and given us determination.
Okay, we have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning to you and Kenneth. And Kenneth, thanks for coming out yesterday. There's only one little point I want to make, and I would not go further into any more detail. A request was made in December asking the court to provide a larger chambers because people had shown an interest, and we were aware that there was going to be a turnout of a number of persons. And it was not until Wednesday that I was doing business at the court, and I went and I checked if that request had been honored, only to learn that request had not been brought to the judge's attention.
Oh, wow.
And I informed the person responsible that bring it to the judge's attention because the matter, and I say the matter is tomorrow. Apparently it was done, and we did not get a reply until about 4:15. That would have been on Wednesday evening. and the judge said it would be in chambers. I know he has a discretion, but they're usually accommodating at times in matters like this. But anyway, what has happened, our lawyers who went into chambers, we, the parties, did not even were allowed in because of the circumstances of the judge not, knowing in time about the number of persons.
Mm-hmm.
For the future, we're going to write again in advance because people have shown an interest and they want to hear all about what this matter is, because we have been working on this matter for a very long time, and this is the first time that it wasn't until sometime in 2018 that the government did acknowledge those affidavits. So the ball has started rolling from there, but all of the while we were ignored. It has not been an easy process. So with that, I will hang up and hear what everybody else has to say.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Thank you very much for that.
We'll see if I can just add some interesting points to this. Now, I know a lot of people who may be listening to the radio may not be fully aware of the details of this case. The only thing the average person may say, the only thing they know is there's a challenge about beach access. And everybody jumps at it. I go, hold on now, I want to make sure that my beach access rights is protected. Every Caymanian would agree with that. But what happened? Where was it taken from? Was it an actual right? And how did we get to the stage where a group of people are challenging the government? And why are we challenging the government as opposed to the property owner, or where those rights are now being taken away? With hesitation of not trying to talk too much about the case, I think it's very, very important that the judges or persons who make the decisions about this open case, make this be open court. Here's why. Decisions were made by persons in power, legislators, our past legislators, our current legislators, I am not sure which, as to allowing this thing to happen. There is much history here by these senior members and petitioners who fought even when the process was being done before it was approved of this. And legislators, past or present, I'm not sure, allowed this to happen. Therefore, I think it's important that the whole country pays close attention to this case, because the information will come out eventually who didn't do what or who did what, whether they're still elected or they're no longer elected, because the fact that these beach accesses has been taken away from the people fell in the laps of the people we elected to protect us. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important that we all pay close attention to this case. Any chance that you get, pay attention to two things. One, if they still keep it in chambers, you should be concerned. If they allow it to be in open court, I think you should take as much time as you possibly can off from work if necessary, or a vacation day, to go to these hearings, because the information as to what didn't happen or who allowed what to happen will blow your mind. I'll say no more from there, but keep a close eye on this one.
Okay, I just want to add to that, and referring to our Constitution, and the preamble to our Constitution speaks about the fact that the people of the Cayman Islands, recalling the events that have shaped their history and made them what they are, and acknowledging their distinct history, culture, and Christian heritage, and the enduring influence and contributions in shaping the spiritual, moral, and social values that have guided their development and brought peace, prosperity, and stability to these islands through the vision, forbearance, and leadership of their people who are loyal to Her Majesty the Queen. And we then go on to affirm their intention to be several things, including the fact that affirmed to be a country that respects, protects, and defends its environment and natural resources as a basis of our existence, and also a country that is a community protective of traditional Caymanian heritage and the family. Protection of traditional Caymanian heritage. One part of our heritage is
to go to the beach.
To go to the beach, a love of the beach, and having access to that. Now, of course, there was a time in the Cayman Islands when you didn't really have to worry about too much about that because the beaches were owned by Caymanians. Now, we don't need to revisit history to know what happened there, you know, in terms of that. People individually sold their land, and what wasn't sold by individuals, the government leased out to non-Caymanians for 99 years.
Pennies on the dollar.
Which means that, you know, any one person's lifetime, that land would never revert back to the people, to that generation. And in many instances, before the expiry of those 99-year leases, they were renewed. They were renewed again as well. So in a preamble to our Constitution, we have said all of these nice things, these good things. Now we see in the United States of America, politicians now are talking about the apparent disrespect for the Constitution by their leader and others. We need to look to see how we ensure that our Constitution here works for us, and not only that it is just in the printed word, but in our actions as well. I believe we have one caller. Let's grab the caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. Olsey. Good morning, Mr. Kenneth, and the panel.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
My comment pertaining to this matter. There was constitutional laws there that used to protect the beach from the high water mark and stuff. Why did they remove them? That's one of the questions. Now, a second question is, the second matter that I'm going to speak about is, I think nowadays, about pointing the finger of who's been screwed up and what was screwed up on this country is not the major issue. The issue is what can we do at this present time to resolve the problem and move forward. Because pointing the fingers at everybody that have sold the country out for $1 is not the matter that is there. But the point that there now is the younger generation that come in. What, where, and when they gonna how to lay their head. Right now, we as a Caymanian need to start up and stop it and bring it to a full heel and turn this nation around and put her about to sea. When I'm talking about tradition, they have sold it all out. Because right now a Caymanian cannot get a job of high value. I could talk pertaining to myself because I was just released for next month, making, after so many years, making $12 something. And they brought a man in and I had to train him and put him above me and paid him $20. Now, those is the kind of foolishness need to be addressed in this nation. If we're going to call ourselves a nation, we need to respect, honor, and put integrity in place of our fellow man. That will be my comment for the day, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. We have another caller, and we'll give you an opportunity to respond to both, but we have to take a commercial break first. So the caller who's on hold, just hang in there, quick commercial break. When we return, we will take your call.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, formerly known as Professional Pharmacy, would like to thank the Cayman communities for their loyal support these past 18 years. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care. thorough background checks and follow-up consultations is only the beginning. Your safety is our concern. Our staff are respected healthcare professionals whose job requires careful and precise calculations. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, where we prepare to provide exceptional care. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we care about your health.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes, Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. Going straight to the phone lines as promised. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. For the Record.
Good morning, Doc. How are you?
I'm fine, and good morning to MLA, Mr. Kenneth Bryan, soon to be MP.
Good morning, Dr. Macfield.
Yeah. Gentlemen, Caymanians had the right to use the beach long before Cayman had a constitution. Long before that. The 1882 law, prescription law, says that where Caymanians was using the beach for picnic, for recreation, for swimming, for fishing, and for any other acts associated thereto for a period of 20 years, that they had the absolute right to use the beach, and that right was indefeasible. That means cannot be taken away. Now, once Caymanians conform and show that they had been using that for 20 years, the prescription law protects them. Now, when you go and Google what it means by indefeasible and all of those legal terms, and you'll see what they mean. It means that no one can take them away. Now, the right is not a right in persona. It means that the right is not a right for individual right. It's a public right. It's a right to the public. That's what the prescription law says. And when you have a public right, who should be protecting that public right?
The government.
It should be the government. So it's the government should be in court fighting the landowners who own lands adjacent to those accesses to the beach to protect the Caymanians' right to use the beach. It's a right in rem. It's not a right in persona. It's not like you and I are fighting each other. The prescription law goes on to say that if the right was given by landowners to individuals, then that's a different thing. That's an easement of way over their property, and that is usually by contract or by agreement. But when you have the prescription law that defines what the use of the beach is, I can't understand. But then, if the politicians don't obey the Constitution, Section 117 and 119, if they can get away with not adhering and obeying the Constitution, what is the prescription law to them? Just mean anything to them if they can just ignore the Constitution. And the problem is that if you look at all the cases, in the UK, and I will just relate one case to you called the Attorney General's case. It's one of the longest cases in the law reports in England, where a post office in Southall, London, was refused to send the mail to South Africa during the apartheid period, and a man could not get the mail sent to his daughter in South Africa, and he went and complained to the Attorney General of the United Kingdom to say that the post office was not adhering to the law, the law of sending the mail, and the Attorney General ignored him and said the Labour government was in favor with the post office because they were against apartheid. And he went to the courts. He went to Sir Johnson. He went to Lord Denning, and Lord Denning sent a writ to the Attorney General to come up to the court to explain why is it that he was not protecting the law. And the Attorney General said to Lord Denning, "Listen, my lord, I am the Attorney General of the United Kingdom. I am a member of cabinet, and number one, and I am the Attorney General number two, and I am not answerable to the courts." And that case went all the way to the Supreme Court, to the High Court in England, and the principle that came out of it, no one is above the law, not even the Queen, and that you have to protect the law to protect the people's rights. And I just do not understand, and it seems to me is that it's because a lot of Caymanian people don't understand the law. They don't understand. They never cared about the law, and therefore they allow the people who they elect to protect them and to protect their rights and to protect their children and grandchildren rights just to evade them and to sell them away. Now, the reason why the landowner, before they changed the law, I think maybe less than 20 years ago, I can't recall what administration did it. It doesn't really matter right now. The landowner could only use down to the vegetation line because the rest of the sand, the beach down to the sea, was for the public. That is so easy to understand. I mean, I just do not understand why is it that we have so much problem in such a small country where we have been doing this, launching our boats, drying our nets, going to the sea, all of these years for generations and generations and generations before 1882 and after 1882. And then someone can come and fence off the beach. The government should be down there tearing the fences down and protecting the people, not the people going to the government. And as far as I know, judicial review has two stages. The first stage is the application stage, and that's ex parte. That means that excludes anybody else except the person who's making the application. Once the court finds, yes, you have a good case, and we are convinced that you have a good case, and then they give you leave to apply for judicial review. That is when the other side gets into it. Go and look at the Grand Court rules, and you'll see how the rules and how they operate and how they apply for it. I just do not understand all what's going on at all. I don't understand why the government is there, has to put in reply to the people's application. The government should be joining people. The government should be an applicant to protect the people's rights. But like I said, we have this big constitution. We have all these amendments now, and we have all these changes, and yet it means nothing, absolutely nothing to anyone of substance. And it seems to me that the Caymanian people have been shafted again. They'll be shafted, and that soon they will be put on a reservation, and they'll have to get a book to pass certain checkpoints. They will have to have identification to move from one place to the other, and that doesn't surprise me because history repeats itself, and what goes around comes around.
Yeah, Doc. Before you go, there's we're both looking at an article here on the OGA website, and it talks about the prescription for the illness, what has changed, and it says it reads a particular criticism leveled at the pre-amended legislation was that it required citizens to bring a private lawsuit at their own, often significant expenses to the Grand Court to establish public rights of ways on behalf of the public generally. The Prescription Amendment Law 2017 has amended Section 9 of the Prescription Law 1997 revision by 1. Forming a dedicated government department with responsibility for ensuring access to the public beaches, which would be able to make an application to the Grand Court to resolve a dispute regarding public beach access, and 2, permitting an application to be made to have a dispute settled regarding access to a public beach. Are you in agreement with that?
The government should be the person who's bringing the action.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not what the law is saying.
Based on this explanation here on the OJ article, yes.
But that's what the prescription law says. And when you have a public right is the government that protects the public, not the individual. You see, an action in persona, an action between Kenneth and McPhail is a personal action. That's what we call it, an action in persona. If Kenneth gives me the right to go over his property to get to my property, and all of a sudden Kenneth stops me from doing that, that's an action in persona. I go to court and say, I have the right to go over to Kenneth's property by agreement, or by written or oral agreement. But when it's a public right, anyone can do that. Mm-hmm. It's the government that comes to protect that right. It's not my right or your right. It's the general public's right, and it's the government that protects that right. And I don't understand how the government can abdicate its responsibilities and come against the people.
Well, I think the reason why the government is not going to be fighting for that right, because the government is the one that allowed it to be taken away in the first place. That's where the problem comes in.
In this particular
situation, because they're the ones that the petitioners are challenging their decision that has allowed the rights to be taken away, because they weren't taken away until certain decisions were made.
Well, what you young MLAs and MPs have to do now, when you take power, is you have to go and restructure the law.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And rework that. That's what you have to do. And then you have to police it.
Yep.
You have to make it clear. If you breach the law, you are going to pay the penalty.
Okay, Doc, I want to thank you very much. We have about 2 minutes before we go to commercial break. Maybe we'll try to squeeze another caller in. Doc referred to the word indefeasible. It is spelled INDEFEASIBLE, and its meaning is not able to be lost, annulled, or overturned.
If I can use this quick couple of seconds,
sure,
I know we have another caller, is the first caller said that, what's important now is for us to fix the problem going forward and not focus on what happened before. Now, I agree with you. I like to focus on trying to solve the problem now moving forward. But the reason why I said it's important for us to focus on who did what is because what if I said to you today that some of those persons responsible for allowing these things to happen are still around now and still in powerful positions? Would you still want them to be in those powerful positions? That's the question. So that's why I said it's important that we know who did what to allow this thing to happen, why we have to pay attention to this case, because this didn't happen on its own. Decisions were made by the power we gave the people. The people gave the power to those legislators to allow this to happen. And if those legislators are still around, still in powerful positions, still making decisions either in front of your eyes or behind closed doors, you need to know if you're not happy with the decisions were made. So, of course, I don't like to cry over spilled milk, clean it up and move forward. But we got to make sure the spilled milk doesn't happen again. So that's the viewpoint I was coming from, not from just blaming somebody.
Okay. We're going to take a quick commercial break. 3 callers on hold. When we return, we will be going straight to the phone line. So please stay tuned.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
2020 means perfect vision. And if you have your sights set on driving a new hybrid, then the time is now to check out the new RAV4 and CHR. Just two of the many hybrid models that Vamt is bringing to Cayman. Whether you're looking for a smoother and quieter way of driving or want a car that maximizes fuel efficiency while minimizing emissions, there are lots of ways a new hybrid from Vamt can make the difference in your life. Hybrids save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries without being plugged in. So focus your 2020 vision on a new hybrid from Vamt Motors, and we will see you through. Come to Vamt, home of the hybrid, located on Walkers Road.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. Going straight to the phone lines. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. Connor. Happy New Year to you.
Good morning. Happy New Year to you too, sir.
Yeah, first time I'm calling Mr. Brian. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you too, sir, and Happy New Year.
Same to you, Kenneth. I'm going to call you Kenneth because you're much older than me, but I believe, and it's no complaint to older than your age.
Mm-hmm.
So, congratulations. Keep up the good work. No faults here with you.
Thank you, sir.
So far, keep it up. Mr. Connor and Mr. Brian, I agree with the caller that called before the break, before Mr. Markfield came on just now. There is an issue in this island is going on, and it's very bad, and the government is loving it. And Mr. Brian, I don't know if you have any, in your capacity, if you have any way you can bring some sort of motion along with the rest of your colleagues there to see if you can change this somehow. They help people. The gentleman said that he had to train somebody, and they brought them in and paying them more than they were paying him. That's not right. There ain't no way in the world that this right. Even the devil would say it wrong. They is using the Caymanians, the couple of them that is working, and they will bring people in and make the Caymanians train that person, turn around and either fire or demote the Caymanian and give the foreign person more. Can rectify that? Show me some right in that. That is my question this morning. And Mr. Brian, if you have any way in your capacity that you could change that, because it is bad for our Caymanian people. It's very bad, and I'm very old, born and raised in Georgetown. I see a lot of changes in my time, a lot of changes. I didn't recognize my mother property on Mary Street anymore, where I grew up all of my life, because of the changes that is in the island. We need changes, but we need positive changes. But all these changes that is happening is not good for us, for the Caymanian, because Mr. Markfield said before that we're going to soon be in a reservoir.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much, caller, for that. One more caller, because I think one caller hung up. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Jose?
Yes, good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm good, sir. Happy New Year to you.
Thanks.
And to MLA Brian.
Good. Yeah. Happy New Year to you too, sir, and good morning.
Good morning, Kenneth Ebanks. I just want to expand a little bit on what Dr. Maxfield was saying a little earlier.
Sure.
If my memory serves me correct, and I think my memory is a little longer than my hair, I think the high water mark was changed in the mid-'80s.
Mm-hmm.
It was moved from the vegetation line down to a point there now, I suppose like plus 0.45 feet above the mean sea level. Again, to the best of my recollection, the high water mark was moved, and that amount of land, then in some places 100 feet or more, was given to the abutting landowners without any form of what you call it when you purchase property. They didn't pay any transfer fees, whatever on it.
Okay. And that would have been originally then based on the old process. That would have been part of the public land.
Correct. So from the vegetation line down to the sea was public. Now it's just basically 10, 15, 20 feet so between the sea and like where on the normal conditions where the sea sort of laps up onto the beach.
Yes.
That's roughly the high water mark now. So that was given to those landowners. My question now is, why can't government take it back and give it back to its original owners, who were the people of the Cayman Islands?
Can you do me a favor, if you don't mind? You said something about high water mark plus 4.5 feet. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah.
So wherever the high water mark is at high tide, plus 4.5 feet.
No.
Okay, let me hear that again.
No, at mean sea level, let's say that's 0.0 feet. So plus 0.45 feet, which is more or less half a foot, 6 inches then, above mean sea level.
So basically 4.5 feet.
No.
No?
Plus 0.45.
Wow. Plus 0.45 feet? That's less than a half a foot from the sea level?
Correct.
So that's why we're hearing stories now of these beach properties, hotels and condos and stuff like that, putting their beach chairs almost to the water's edge.
Correct.
Well.
Okay. That could be one of the reasons.
Oh boy. We're going to be in some serious trouble soon. I'll let the caller finish. I got something to read.
No, go ahead, caller. Yes.
No, so legally, that's where the high water mark is now. And then I think the low water mark then is the opposite of that, minus point something feet below mean sea level.
So every time I go to the beach now, I better take my tape measure with me.
I tell you, boy, we're gonna be in some serious trouble. I feel sorry for the. Anyway, I'll let you call it. Caller, you finished?
Any more to add, caller?
No, I'm just open the can of worms and say.
Oh yes, you
have. Yeah, put it much clearer, and we know that you know what you're talking about because we know your background.
Sir, can you do me a favor? Can you leave your telephone number with the lovely Miss Suzanne? We're going to take you off here because I don't want everybody to know your number. But she's going to take your number because I'm going to call you after the show, please.
Okay.
Did you go into?
Yeah, she's going to she's going to take you off here now and take your number, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Caller, next caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Good morning, caller. Welcome to For the Record.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Yes, Mr. Orrett Connor, and good morning to MLA, Mr. Kenneth Bryan.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, concerning discrimination. A young woman, 19 years of age, was hired by a hotel. And while she was on probation, they told her not to speak Caymanian. And before her probation was finished, they laid her off. And also, when it comes to traffic, I mentioned to Minister Hugh Wednesday on Radio Cayman Talk Show with Dwayne that they need to put signs up reminding our tourists to drive on the left at least every 2 miles. I heard there was a head-on collision on Linford Pearson Drive yesterday, and I heard that it was a tourist driving on the wrong side of the road. And this is something I mentioned to Minister Moses Kirkconnell about 4 years ago. And the answer that he gave me, the way that he spoke to me, was in a way that he'll do it when he wants to. And when it comes to beach access, this is something I mentioned to Minister Panton concerning Bogston Road. And one of the main reasons and importance of beach access is not just for people to get to the beach, It's also for emergency services.
True. Good point. Good point.
And if the ambulance comes to try to save someone's life and not able to get on the beach on time, as you know, seconds counts when it comes to saving someone's life. A person could lose their life because of the emergency services not being able to get to the beach. And there needs to be a law put in place to show these people the seriousness of what they're doing.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Caller, can you do me a favor? I'm obviously going to try to respond to some of the comments that you've made. But this is a few weeks now I've been hearing about this young lady who worked in the hotel industry or the tourism industry. I'm not sure if it's a hotel or condo or what, but that she was let go before her probation, and the speculation is on the basis that she's a Caymanian or that she speaks Caymanian and was told not to. I really want to speak to this young lady because I want her to identify who told her that. I think it's important that we identify who that person was, if in fact that happened, because at this particular point it's a claim. But I want to hear from that individual.
Yes.
Because anybody in this country, and I'm going to say this with a very stern voice, that comes here to work and tells my people that they can't speak of their native tongue need to get out of my country. I'm going to be straight up with you. And that's me not being a politician. That's me being Kenneth. Because that's utter garbage. Now, I have to establish first whether... People say a lot of things. I've heard people not tell the truth about what happened with their employment and say things. I would love to look at this young lady in her eyes and establish her story, where she worked, and try to see if I can get some truth to that. Because that is a serious, serious claim. And anybody of that kind of individual or that kind of caliber shouldn't be in my country if there is that person around. So if you can you possibly have that person contact me? I know you know who I am. And you contacted me on Facebook before. Is it possible that you can get to that person and ask her to reach out to me?
Let me have your number right now, Mr. Brian.
926-0005. 926-0005.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. Ms. Susan, we have about 2 minutes. Can we squeeze another call in? Yes, we can. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Ossie. Good morning, Mr. Bryan.
Good morning, sir.
I want to mention. I mean, this is good topic this morning because I've seen things happening in Cayman that I can't understand, and I know the former minister the former director of planning just called in a while ago, and I want to mention some of the things that I see going on now down in Northwest Point. Let me just give you this one down in Northwest Point Road across from the Wesleyan Church. There's a piece of property that's being developed down there. It's 2 houses on it. 2 houses, 2 individual houses. And I noticed that the setback between the 2 houses is less than the required distance. That's one thing. They're not 100 feet from the Iron Shore, or not. I don't know about the Iron Shore. I don't want to use that. But I know they're not the required number of feet from the road. And then at the road, they have an 8-foot high wall that is now being, I think they're putting stone on the wall. There's no sidewalk. There's no nothing. Now, this is the thing that, and then it's not just that one, but on that road going down toward the Turtle Farm, there's 1, 2, 3 houses or 3 buildings there that they have now taken the sidewalk at what used to be the edge of the road, and so they've encroached another 5 feet on top of the road. Oh, see, the corruption, I'm going to use that word, that's in this island of the people are getting away with, because planning, I'm talking about planning, have used that word discretion in so many ways that has violated the code. I am tired of seeing these things happen. They got a house or a little apartment down on not Bursty Hill, on the road going from Bursty Hill to Papagallo. And that foundation is about 1.5 feet from the edge of the road. I've spoken to planning about this. Nobody has done anything about it.
Okay, caller, we have to cut you there because we've gone past the 9 o'clock hour for headline news. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news. Access.
Local, regional, international, this is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
Cayman is presenting 3 bills to further refine and improve the jurisdiction's beneficial ownership regime. During the next meeting of the Legislative Assembly, lawmakers will debate the Companies Amendment Bill, the Limited Liabilities Companies Bill, and the Limited Liability Partnership Amendment Bill. These changes will strengthen the beneficial ownership regime in the Cayman Islands. Iran has again rejected suggestions that one of its missiles brought down a Ukrainian passenger jet near the capital, Tehran. Its civil aviation chief said today he was, quote, certain that the plane was not hit by a missile. New video appeared to show a plane being hit by a projectile over Tehran. U.S. media have speculated that the airliner may have been mistaken for a warplane as Iran prepared for possible U.S. retaliation. And the Duchess of Sussex has returned to Canada to join her son amid discussions over the future role for her and Prince Harry in the royal family. Meghan and Prince Harry have been in Canada over Christmas with baby Archie. It comes as the Queen, the Prince of Wales, and the Duke of Cambridge asked staff to find a workable solution after the couple announced they would be stepping back as senior royals. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Emily, Mr. Kenneth Bryan. We have a caller on hold, but I want to give Mr. Bryan an opportunity first to respond to some of the comments and callers that callers have made so far, Mr. Bryan.
OC, if we do have someone on hold is it from the previous, from the break, before the break?
Yes, yeah.
I would allow that caller to finish their free
No, not the same one that was on hold. This is a new caller.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you for that opportunity then. I think it was important. We were speaking about the right to the beaches and trying to establish exactly what should be a clear understanding in our laws. But I recall in the Legislative Assembly asking the Attorney General to give a clear indication as to what rights are and what the high water mark is. Even him himself couldn't really respond. I think some of the comments were, and I stand to be corrected on this, was something like, well, I'm not not an expert in that, but the only other person I have from a legal perspective to give the interpretation and a practical perspective for the average person was him. I never got a clear answer, but what I'm going to do is find those Hansards and come and read them here, because the interpretation of what the high water mark is seems to be rather ambiguous, as well as ambiguous and unclear, in my opinion. And here's where I'm most worried, OC, is what the public's perception may be of what their right is and what former legislators created the reality to be, which I think is a little bit different, because the average person will go down there and say, well, okay, then I have access to the beach. But if you only have access to about 4 feet from the water line, you're actually still in the wet sand. So that's what I'm getting the high water mark is the wet sand area, not the dry sand.
I was reading some descriptions in other jurisdictions, and there was an article by NEPA in Jamaica, and they go on to define this thing about the high water mark, and basically what was intended then was for the dry land that was not affected by the rising tide, that would be belong to the property owner, and anything where the tide, the high tide would come up to that would be wet would be public.
But that's what I'm saying, and I agree with you, but that's
Yeah.
not what the average person understands.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody thinks that. There's something else I want to read here. I know they're going to call her, but if we take all calls, I'll never be able to respond to all of these, unfortunately. I'm reading, I want to read something that I got from a friend of mine who was actually away overseas, and he sent me the Tourism Accommodation Manual from 2012 to 2013. And it says guidelines for owners and managers of beachfront properties.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, it gives a guideline to all of those persons to understand how to handle the beach. It goes in number 1. In order to dispel any confusion or misunderstanding which may have arisen in the past over the rights which members of the public enjoy over Cayman's beaches, the following guidelines may be as of assistance, especially to managers of beachfront hotels and other tourism-related beachfront properties. Number 2, the public access to Cayman's beaches is by the recognized public right-of-ways, which are usually clearly marked on maps and physically on the ground. Landowners over whose land these public right-of-ways exist are under legal duty to make sure that they are kept free and clear of any obstructions or debris. Mm-hmm. Number 3, once members of the public arrive on the beach, the following rules apply. 4, the seaward boundary of the landowners or tenants' property in tidal waters, the mean high water mark. Between the mean high water mark and the low water mark, known as foreshore, the land belongs to the Crown, as does anything below the sea, up to the limit of territorial waters. 5, where, however, a landowner's property consists of beach above the mean high water mark, then the usual rule that the landowner can eject anyone he chooses from his land is displaced. 6, members of the public have the right to use any part of Cayman's beaches for recreation, even through a part of the beach being used, even if the part of the beach is being used on private property, i.e., is above the mean of the high water mark. Such a public right is one of a group of rights which members of the public enjoy, even over private land. In the Cayman Islands, it is a right which... Sorry, I'm trying to read from my phone and everybody is just constantly messaging me. Let me see, where was I?
Okay.
It is the right of which the laws presume to have existed for many years and which members of the public have acquired under the prescription law. Now, I don't know about you, OC, but that wasn't very, very clear. Now, you see, this is where the problem lies, based on perception. The average Caymanian may not be able to take that as clarity as to what my rights are, what my rights aren't. And it can cause a conflict where somebody's going to get arrested, somebody's going to get hurt because it's not clear as crystal. Mm-hmm. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, let's grab the caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Billy.
Good morning. Good morning. Mr. O.C., I sent to you and to you, Mr. Kenneth, a letter that was written by the, at the time, the Solicitor General, Mr. Stephen Hall Jones. Mm-hmm. Have you opened that yet?
You sent that this morning?
This morning, yeah. I sent you before, but this is from the website Cayman Beach Watch. So anyone can go in to the Cayman Beach Watch website and they can find this letter.
Okay.
From 2003?
2003, yeah. You can go ahead opening it up. I won't read the whole thing. But this is 5th of February, 2003. Now, just as a matter of the way governments our successive governments that we have had have worked on these applications for registration based on the 500 plus affidavits that were submitted in May and June of 2001. This report was done as well as there was a report on all of these right-of-ways done by Vincent Grant, who was the chief surveyor at the time. Now, this 2003 letter, the Beach Access Prescription, written by Mr. Stephen Hall Jones, when you read that, now this letter, just as another aside, let me tell you how our government is. Our government kept this letter secret from those that had filed and the concerned citizens group until Freedom of Information came out in 2010, when they were fighting against the theft of the West Bay Road by the government, which the facts of that case have never, ever been heard in court because it was kicked out at the time to apply to have the judicial review on it. So the facts of that remain hidden from general public. But this letter now, when we found out about it from inside of government, someone informed us this letter existed. Even then, it took a fight to get this letter released on the Freedom of Information, which goes to further show that our government has not been working for the benefit of the people that elected them and put them in there. And I'm not talking about the current Heinz 57 variety government that we have, which consists of every color, purple, green, and red, plus all the independents that have joined in. This letter clearly explains. I won't read it all, but you, Mr. Brian, I hope if you'd read it the way you read the last one, which is good. And this says it. And this says that the prescription law has the effect in common law prescription by creating the new rights. And it is all here. There is no need to perfect, is the in quotation marks, as he put it, because the law does it for us. This public lands law that was drafted and came out, the function of that law is not to enhance the rights of Caymanians. What they're trying to do by doing a whole Blarney yarn run around in their government deceptiveness, what they're trying to do in that is to find a way to deny Caymanians further rights and accesses to their foreshore on all areas. And it is sad that I have to say this against an organization that I should be able to hug up to and feel warm that they're there protecting my interests, when in fact they're not. They're working for a different master. So read this letter, if you will, and you will see.
Well, sorry, Mr. Adam.
The one from Stephen Hall Jones.
Okay, I haven't received it yet, unfortunately.
It went to you by WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
good.
Yes, sir.
It's pretty
Your
extensive.
personal phones, both of you.
Yes.
The response by the then planning assistant number 1, Mr. Haroon Pandui, you want to read the response to that as well, or?
Well, Mr. Pandui, they assisted as far as they could assist, because when these affidavits were submitted, they were misdirected by government because nobody wanted to deal with it, and they told them submit it to Mr. Pandui, when that was the wrong thing. This should have been dealt with from the beginning by the Registrar of Lands, but because some of our politicians and senior civil servants had made commitments to business people and to big landowners, it was a hot potato when the Caymanian people started to stand up for their rights. So they shuffled it around. That's what they did.
Mr. Billy, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
This is in the former journalistic element of me coming out, right? This is very complicated. We're talking about rights, we're talking about legislation, regulations, and rules that didn't happen. For the average person who may not understand, I know most people go, I want to protect my rights to the beach. Most Caymanians believe in that, and they believe that this is what is happening. From a simple way, what transpired here that went wrong? As simple as you possibly can. Can you we had our rights down there.
Very simple.
Okay.
Very simple. Our government has not been working for the Caymanian people. And they're trying to find a way by creating laws and by twisting laws to work against Caymanian people to satisfy the wishes and desires of the big developers that want to take away Caymanian rights.
Okay.
You want a short answer? That's it.
Okay. If we can get a little shorter one, for the benefit of our listening and viewing audience, can you talk a little bit about the specifics of the court action that is underway now?
Actually, it's not too short, but if you look at the timeline on Cayman Beach Watch, most of the documents are there. More documents are going to go up so people can read for themselves and understand. I don't want anybody
but just give us a genesis of the issue, where we came from, and how did we get to where we are at now, where you are in court now.
Okay, 2001, 500 affidavits submitted for between 150, 200, whatever it was, right-of-ways. No response in writing from government. No response, acknowledgement of receipt until January 2017, when they said that they would not register them. 16 years they were shuffling this thing around. They even tried to hide them from Mr. Kurt Tibbetts. Physically hide them, sir. And he managed to dig them out from under somebody's desk.
Wow.
Now, when they did that then, under the registered land law, because that's where it's supposed to be, there is a provision in that where a notification of an appeal for refusal to register. And these are all this documentations on the Cayman Beach Watch website, document timeline. And they refused to register them. So the notice of appeal went in.
When you
according to the registered land law,
I apologize for stopping you.
Go ahead.
When you say they refuse to register them, who are they?
They refuse to register them, and they appeal the fact that they refuse to register. They've been notified by a notice. The registered land law requires them to advise the court that this appeal has been put in. And at that point then, the government would say why they didn't want to do it, and the applicant would say when they didn't want to do it. They did not want to follow that process.
Who are they?
Legal department now, in this case now, legal department advising the registered land law.
Okay.
Okay, so the head of the legal department. And so this is where we are. That has been back and forth. So now, then for 2 years, it took to get legal aid because the government said, the legal aid department has said that access to the sea is not in the public interest in the Cayman Islands. Therefore, it wasn't a legal aid matter that which was fun. They finally rescinded on that.
So the legal department, the legal aid department sent you correspondence that said access to the sea is not important. Are you assuming that?
No, sir.
Okay.
That's what it said. I don't have a copy of that document yet.
If you can find that copy of that document, I want to know which a working civil servant for the people of this country wrote to you and said that public beach access is not important. If you have that in your hand or you have that somewhere, I want you to get it to me because somebody needs to be fired on the spot.
I agree with you.
So if you can find that letter to me, please get it to me as soon as you can because I need to know who said that.
So first they said no legal aid. Then they said 50%. Then they said 25%. And then finally they gave in. That took over a year plus to go through that back and forth. And it took an appeal of their refusal to give legal aid to go to a judge in October of 2018, I think it was. Then they didn't advise the applicants until April of 2019 that a decision had been given in October. It's so much that when you say make it short, that's why the only way for people to get a full handle on what is going on is to take the time and go through those documents. And when I get the rest of the documents from them, when they release them, now that they've had the case, it's starting to go through the court. So people can understand how our government is working against the people of the Cayman Islands.
So quick question: which right of ways were taken away that you were talking about? That were not registered, should I say?
For instance, where your people from Scranton go to camp is one. The sign that was there yesterday, I borrowed, not theft, because I intended to return, and I returned it. I borrowed the dart sign to bring into town because that is 7 vehicular right-of-ways in north of the Kimpton that have now been blocked. Vehicles can't access it. You can squeeze through some blocks and maybe get to it. But as you know, people would drive up and get their camping equipment out and all the rest of it. They went there for weddings. They went there for birthday parties and all that. Now, very inconvenient to reach here. Then you have 2 vehicular right-of-ways. One is at the end of the Raleigh Key Road. Government has given them halfway down the Raleigh Key Road, and that's been blocked off.
Okay, last thing before you go, because I know OC is going to shut you off in a second.
We've gone past our commercial.
The last thing I want to know, right, was your group and the signatories tried to register these right-of-ways way before the West Bay Road deal went down. Am I correct?
Correct, sir. 2001.
Okay. That's all I want to know. All right.
Okay. Caller, want to thank you very much for that. Wish you all the best, and we will continue to hammer home on this subject as well. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. Ms. Susan, anyone on hold? We have one caller going straight to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
All right, and Happy New Year to you guys as well.
Thank you.
Happy New Year to you too, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brian, you might want to take my number and call me at a convenient time. I have something important that I would like to discuss with you.
Sorry, who am I speaking to, or just want to give me a full last name?
Orman.
Oh, Mr. Oh, how you doing?
Good, fine, thank you.
Okay.
Right. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the number would be 928 6923.
6923. Is it in respect to this topic about the watermark?
It's shall I say I don't want to discuss it.
Okay, no worries. Just leave it there. I'll give you a shout probably about after 1 today, and then we can go from there, okay?
Sure.
Okay.
And I have something that I want to say to you, gentlemen.
Okay.
First of all, I want to offer my condolence to the late George Ebanks. We used to call him Lulu.
Lulu. Mm-hmm.
Seaman, and he was a tour operator as well, who suddenly died at the Royal Waterloo Dock last week with understand maybe a major heart attack. I'm not complaining. I'm trying to be helpful. Sometimes it looks like sometime this month we're going to have one day probably 20,000 visitors to the shore. what really concerns me is that we don't have a mobile unit on that dock in these sort of situations on a daily basis, that if someone takes an ill emergency, because like we talk about seconds is important when you have somebody with a heart attack. When you're going to go, you're going to go. But what I'm coming to the point and saying, maybe if we had a unit there, instead of calling an ambulance, you might have saved his life. So we got 20,000 people coming in, and in that day, but now we got probably 8, 10, 12,000 sometimes a day as well. And I think it's high time that we're looking at trying to organize something like a mobile unit that's on the dock when you have this amount of people coming in, that in case something should happen, that you got a immediate response right there and then, not calling an ambulance, because sometimes time is of essence and it can be too late. So that's my little idea or take on this whole situation. So I hope it is taken in the way it's meant to be. And thank you very much for listening to me. Have a pleasant day.
Thank you very much, caller. I think that's an excellent suggestion that is made. Whether or not they have those life-saving devices, like in airports, you see, I think, what are they called? Defibrillators, something like that. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'll look it up and make sure. I'm not a medical person, but they do have those that are available. Of course, the other issue with that is that you have to have people who have the knowledge in terms of
how to operate them
as well. But in an area like the Royal Watler Terminal,
where so many people are,
hundreds of thousands of people passing through, you would expect that they would have that. You have to, like I said, they have them at airports where.
Well, I have a Port Authority question coming to the House, so I wrote down some information about what he just said, and I'll ask the relevant minister in charge, is there any reason why there isn't one, or whether they would consider to put one in? I think Mr. Colonel would definitely see that as a positive as well. It's a great suggestion, and Mr. Moses would definitely probably take it on. If his ministry isn't already listening, and if you are already listening, and you are going to make the suggestion so I don't have to file a parliamentary question for it, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll just ask you on the floor of the House.
And there's no reason why the industry partners down there should not get involved in that and contribute to that. Not just having one, but several there as well.
Yeah.
As well as making provisions for people to be trained, people who are there on a daily basis to be trained in the use of those as well. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning to you, Mr. O.C.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to Emily, Mr. Kenneth Bryan.
Good morning,
MP,
sir.
I much prefer that sound. Emily sounds like someone involved in some sort of legal association. I'm glad that is now MP, Member of Parliament. A step forward. Step forward. Happy New Year to you both, of course. Again, and I'd just like to agree with 100% my friend Mr. Orman, and I was yes on that suggestion. Great. And then it's very necessary, I think, and should be. And I was well acquainted with Lulu, as we all had forgotten that it was George, as it was. That's how we were so used to just saying Lulu. Well acquainted with him, and I was shocked to hear of it sudden passing. Well, also I'd just like to send out greetings tomorrow. It'll be tomorrow, of course, Captain Paul Hurlston's birthday. It'll be tomorrow, I'm pretty sure of that. And the issue that you're talking about, I'm not going to immerse myself in anything political, because everything seems to be so. I'd like for us to realize one thing. It may seem trivial, and I know I've said this before, but each and every time an issue of such magnitude and importance comes up, concerns the people, I think the relevance is there. When we moved away from our simple life, going to sea, standing back home, the allotments, those who went, to the majority, men, and but the turtling and so forth, and then that phased out into more just visit, going to sea all over on the big vessels and so forth, moving from the sailing to the iron ships. And then when we transcended from that, move forward, the transition into a completely different thing, the financial world, and then the tourism, which was always there from the late 1940s, it had become very evident. And it started from the late 30s and even before, but we did not realize the situation that we would find ourselves in, say, 50 years from 1960, or let's say 40 years from 1960, where we started to move, and even 30 years, that it would be a completely different lifestyle almost. All the younger people who are now in their 40s and or even are not used to what we were used to. And this type of life has changed. And we have said from then that what we'd have to do is get a lot of very wealthy investors in, because I remember very well, and I remember a song that Andy Martin made some many years ago about Delworth Super Service, and the Englishman driving up and saying, "Hurry for me, mister. I don't want to be late for secret conference time." If we try to understand what that meant, because I remember those sayings, I remember when they would say it. I was in the service business too, and I remember they'd say, "Nick, you gotta hurry, secret conference time." It's not a lie, it's the truth. So therefore, there was the issue of trying to, nowadays it's not done the way it was done then, with the shredding papers and the this and the that. I'm not gonna go into that, because that get me in trouble, get us all in if you're listening to what I'm saying. With this type of life, where we sold away millions and millions of dollars of land that we, the Caymanian, cannot afford to buy back now at all. We'll have to go inland, and even that soon. But there is a price to pay. This is one of the prices to pay. So when we say we're dissatisfied with the government, and the government isn't working for us, and then the government is trying their very best, sometimes over the years, to try to deal with this issue of how do we fit our lifestyle that we knew and our heritage and our identity into this very, very new situation that's moving forward. I once remember our present premier, I don't think he was premier then at all, saying this is like a runaway train. He was just making a remark, and those words stuck with me because it's true. It's like a runaway train. It's very difficult to stop. And just take a reflection on what we're going to do about certain things. This issue, the beach access and so forth, is as a result of that, because the high water mark was moved, as you heard Mr. Kenneth saying, Clytus, as we all remember, that it was moved. And so why? Because of this issue, of this fitting into this new era, if you want to put it that way, depending on how long an era is measured, I have no idea, that we are now in, and to comply and make it possible for our young people to eke out some kind of lifestyle and benefits from this, the financial world and so forth. And we still have the tourism. Thank God most Caymanians are involved in that aspect of it, and especially in the cruise aspect too. That it is hard to see how we're going to move forward. Any government, I mean, it's Her Majesty's government. We know that. As long as we remain a crown colony, a crown territory, it's Her Majesty's government in the Cayman Islands. We elect the political part of it, and they act as far as they're allowed to act on our behalf. But I understand people's
disappointment with the government doing certain things. It will always be so as long as we're on this earth. No one is going to please us. We'll be dissatisfied with governments. We'll be dissatisfied with who we just elected, and we turn against them. And they were our friends yesterday, but now they're a politician. They're no longer your friend. And that's the way we are. So it's very difficult to see how we're going to move forward from here. Let's hope that we can stand up and make laws or amend, and that's why I'm so glad that when the Premier and Mr. Miller and the opposition at the time, his leader, they agreed to these amendments to the Constitution, because it's important that we move forward. That's why we elect them to move us. We are just blaming them now for everything.
Okay, caller, we'll pass our commercial break time. I want to thank you very much for that contribution as well. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes, Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
We are Radio Cayman, and this is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Sing your praise to the Lord. Come on, everybody, stand up and sing one more. Hallelujah, give me praise to the Lord. We are united in Jesus Christ. We are the soldiers of the land.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
There's a meeting up in heaven. Roll call.
Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Your song flowed through my lips. Your work moved through my hands. Your thoughts stay on my mind. Living me.
2020 means perfect vision. And if you have your sights set on driving a new hybrid, then the time is now to check out the new RAV4 and CHR. Just two of the many hybrid models that Vamped is bringing to Cayman. Whether you're looking for a smoother and quieter way of driving or want a car that maximizes fuel efficiency while minimizing emissions, there are lots of ways a new hybrid from Vamped can make the difference in your life. Hybrids save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries without being plugged in. So focus your 2020 vision on a new hybrid from Vamped Motors, and we will see you through. Come to Vamped, home of the hybrid, located on Walkers Road.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. My pleasure to have in the studio with me Mr. MLA, Mr. Kenneth Bryan. We have two callers, but Mr. Bryan has to leave us at 9:45, so we have about 6 minutes left.
Yes, OC, I want to say thank you so much, and to the listening audience and to those who called in. I think today's show was a very productive and useful and necessary conversation and good dialogue we had today. I've been triggered to do a lot more investigation into the understanding of how we got to this point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really, really worried that my ending findings may be something I don't want to hear. I didn't like a lot of the realities as I'm piecing the pieces together of what transpired, how we got to the stage of where we're at in a disenfranchisement for my people to have access to their beaches. That being said, I want to let the people know that I'm committed to continually fighting for your rights, fighting for our culture and who we are. That's what you put me here for, and I will not give up, even if it kills me. That being said, thank you for the opportunity to be on the show, and I look forward to next week, Friday. I apologize on behalf of the other members of the opposition. Many of them had important matters that was on your behalf why they weren't here this morning, but I'm certain that many of us will be here for next week, Thursday. That being said, God bless each and every one of you, and have a lovely day.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Brian, and the same to you as well. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
OC, and Happy New Year. Is Mr. Brian left now?
Yeah, he's on his way out. He's on his way out.
I'm sure he'll be listening.
He's actually, he will be listening by radio. He's actually stayed back in the studio just to hear from you. Go right ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, sir. You see what happened? How we is in this jam because it was not straight from the beginning. Nobody did anything about it from the beginning. Some years ago, when I was in condo management, it wasn't a guest of ours, but it was a guest of the island, was having some difficulties with his breathing and whatnot. We called the paramedics, and they came, but where he was, they could not get through. So, because it was blocked, and it was blocked with a chain link fence, no access at all. So they ran through the property that I was the manager of, and one of our owners said, Where you think you're going? Where you think you're going? Stop. And the paramedic turned around and looked and say, you tell that to the gentleman that is drowning down there. And he kept going. And the owner and I got in an argument. We had a big meeting about it. They took the fence or the gate down, but it is still not big enough like for an ambulance to get in, access enough that ambulance can get in, or any emergency, fire, anything like that. Yet it goes on and on and on, and our representatives do not do anything about it. Billy, myself, the ladies has fought this thing now for years and years. Yesterday I could not be there. I wished that I could be there, but we had a family emergency. But what we need on the radio is to find out from Mr. McField and lawyers like Mr. McField and Miss Teresa, if we can go to these accesses that is blocked off and remove them, whether we got to remove them with force or what, because we're tired of it. It's no access for anything to most of the places on that 7-mile area. It is so small, you have to squeeze through. Some of them even got it blocked with their very garbage. And like I said, it's only the people that care that is fighting about this thing. But we need our representatives, which we did have our representatives, some of them, and I'm going to name them. Mr. Ezert fought a good fight with us. Arden, he fought a good fight with us some years ago when the Speaker of the House was Premier. And Mr. Gilbert, I don't think at the time he was our representative, but he still was there. Mr. Ezard helped people with at Safe Haven with boats. They had to leave West Bay to go and search for Mr. Ezard so they could get access to their boats that was anchored in Safe Haven. Now, isn't that a shame? Isn't that a shame our own little island, God only knows what's going to happen next. We need to put our foot down and start showing these people that we born and bred, as we would say. Thank you, OC, and you have a pleasant day.
Thank you very much, caller, and all the best to you as well. Next caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Good morning, caller. Okay. Any other calls, Ms. Susan? Okay. No more calls. Just want to again go back to the newspapers, and one of the stories in the Compass has to do with a new complex that has been approved by the Central Planning Authority. And in that article, it talks about the number of units. I think it was something like 190-something units that would normally legally be allowed on that property. And the approval has been for 231 units, I believe. And then it talks about adequate parking, for these 231 units. So there has to be 231 parking spaces. And I'm commenting on this, bringing this to your attention to highlight the point that, are we really addressing our traffic problem when we are requiring apartments to build parking spaces for more cars in the Cayman Islands? Now, some people may say, well, what about the cars that are here already? Well, these 231 apartments that are being built, in many instances, they're being built based on the future projections as far as the population is concerned in the Cayman Islands. So those people are not here yet, but yet we're saying we're going to have more cars, so you have to have these additional parking spaces as well. I am not sure that that's the way to solve the problem. We don't solve it. We're adding to the problem by saying more and more spaces for cars to be parked. So it's like you're digging a hole, but at the same time, while you're digging that hole, you're taking the contents and you're throwing them right back in that same hole. You'll never, ever get out of the hole that way. So it would seem to me that while planning is concerned about parking spaces being available, at the same time, we need to address the issue of whether or not we need more cars in the Cayman Islands. And maybe by having that the complex that they're living in does not have sufficient accommodation for vehicles in the Cayman Islands. To that end, there are people on this island who are concerned. Areas like Rock Hole and other areas have many of these areas now that have rental units, no parking space, cars are parked on the road. And you may say, well, he's just defeating the whole argument that he was making before. My argument in this case is that access by emergency vehicles, either ambulances or the fire service, anytime in the evenings after work is done, usually after between 5:30 and 6 o'clock in the evening. Access to those areas by emergency vehicles is almost nil, simply because all of these cars are parked on the roads. Why are they parked there? Because there are not no established parking spaces. Why are they parked there? They're parked there because the expatriate workers that we allow to come to this country to work, some on 1-year work permit with no guarantee that it's going to be renewed for another year. Some may be on 3-year work permits that for 3 years, but you don't know what's going to happen after the 3 years, to bring vehicles into this country. Those same persons, they bring a vehicle in. If they don't like that one, let's sell that and bring another one. Or, oh, wow, you know something? I can make a profit off this. Let me sell this one and bring another one in as well. And these are work permit holders as well. So this decision by the planning department in relation to these 231 units that is requiring at least one parking space for each unit does not help in any plan that the government may have to control cars in the Cayman Islands, the number of cars in the Cayman Islands. So I say this to the powers that be. When we're looking in this year, 2020, to do something about the number of vehicles on the roads of the Cayman Islands, we have to take a holistic approach to the whole issue, including the building of apartments, and whether or not you want to look at the current usage, or whether or not you want to have more parking spaces because you anticipate that there are going to be more cars in the Cayman Islands. If you're anticipating that there are going to be more cars in the Cayman Islands, then that means that you're really not going to do anything about the number of vehicles on the roads of the Cayman Islands and how we control them. That is a pressing issue. That is, believe it or not, I would see it as an existential issue for the Cayman Islands, to the extent that if we are to continue to exist as a community, one where we have a high quality of life. And when I talk about high quality of life, I'm not talking about how much money you have in your bank account, how many pieces of property you own, the size of the house that you live in, the number of cars that you have. But I'm talking about a quality of life that relieves, we'll take a call. That relieves some of the pressures of life so that your health, mental as well as physical health, can be enhanced, not by what you have personally acquired in terms of the worldly goods. Let's take the last caller for the morning. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Morning, OC. Elvis here from the Bronx.
Morning, Elvis. How are you?
Yeah, I was listening to you just now, and I'll tell you something. What you're saying there, to me, it don't make any sense about the planning, but you know what? You comparing the planning to bring in more cars. Of course they can bring in more cars. But like you said, we need to get a public transportation and stop expatriates from bringing in cars and selling. They're doing a business. Now, my friend, about up in Rockhold, if those people had got the proper planning permission to have space for the cars would not be parked on the road, number one. Number two, if the Cayman Island Royal Police Service was giving them tickets for parking on the road every evening, they would not be there. Now, that's plain and simple.
I agree.
I mean, that's plain. So that is, we have if we obeyed 1/3 of the laws or enforced them on the land, friend, we would be the best place. Singapore would be a garbage dump to us, but vice versa. We got them, and we got people that come in here that don't give a red roses ass about the Cayman Islands. You understand? And you know the sad part about it. Here is the elderly people that is fighting for the beach access for the younger generation, and not a one of them was there. You know, that's a sad story. You know.
It is.
Yeah, that's a sad story. Anyhow, I didn't know about the beach access, but I know one thing. The ganja people, the young ones, gonna be behind that. And like the saying is, OC, no weed, no vote. Grow what you smoke. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Elvis. Take care. I'm going to read one message that we received. It says, talking with a Caymanian accent has been an issue for a long time. I was once hired based on the point that you don't speak like a Caymanian. I sent, and then this goes on to say, I later was replaced with an American work permit holder just before my probation period was over. I had another harassing experience from my country's officials just this Wednesday on my arrival at the airport in Grand Cayman as a domestic traveler from Cayman Brac who had not left the Cayman jurisdiction. So that is coming from one of our listeners as well. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and, by extension, For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the very busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Banks at 12:15 for Talk Today. Join me on Monday, where we are scheduled to have representatives from the Family Resource Center in the studio with us. We'll be talking about their upcoming programs for the year as well. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central, for more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. Fidelity Bank, for all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you. And Roper's Janitorial, complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.
Oh, Cayman moon.
The voice of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
Shining down from above.
We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.